Professor Marandi, let me start with what has happened last night. The new sort of attacks on Iran at 1:30 a.m. last night. We've learned that based on what IRGC announced, the statement of IRGC, they said four oil tankers tried to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Then they warned them. None of these tankers listened to the warning. They wanted to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Then one of them was hit by Iranian missile, and then the other tankers turned back. Later on at 2 a.m., an American drone attack on a communication tower in Qeshm Island. Then a port in Sirik with two missiles was attacked on the part of Americans. Later on, we had the Iranian response on Kuwait and Bahrain. From what we've seen so far, at least the fifth fleet in Bahrain was hit because there is a footage coming out of Bahrain. What has happened last night, and what do we know about what is going on there?
Well, first of all, I think, Nima, we should always keep this in mind. The United States has been lying from the very beginning, from the very beginning of this war, with when it comes to um, its strikes on Iran, and with regards to Iranian strikes on U.S. assets. It's been lying. So during the past few days, it keeps saying that all the Iranian missiles and drones have been shot down, uh, which is nonsense. The Iranians are striking their targets with uh, high efficiency, and they can't hide it. And during the last two strikes, the Iranians have been hitting the Americans harder in retaliation than in the past. So it's somewhat disproportionate. The Americans carry out a small strike, and the Iranians hit much harder. Uh, that's another element that we have to keep in mind. So during the past few days, the Iranian retaliations have been more severe. Another thing that the Americans have been saying, or at least Western media has been saying, even media opposed to Trump, they've been saying that over the past few weeks, the Americans have quietly been able to get tens of tankers and ships out of the Persian Gulf and through the Strait of Hormuz. That's completely untrue. It's all fake. And it's probably a part of the whole manipulation process to keep the prices of the price of oil and energy and other commodities down. If the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal or any other media outlet has if they can just give the name of four or five of those ships that pass through the Strait of Hormuz, they must be missing. So there's nothing secret about it. If those ships are no longer in the Persian Gulf and they're outside, then everyone knows who they are because they were stuck there for 3 months, over 3 months now. So they can name the names of the ships. They can say this ship carrying this oil or this amount of crude oil or this cargo, but they won't. They'll just say tens of ships, 40 ships, 70 ships, but it's all made up. Last night, the Americans once again tried to get a number of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, and they failed. And the ships had to turn around, and one, of course, you explained what happened to them. Without Iranian permission, they can't leave. So the Americans, again, in their anger, they struck a couple of empty areas, but they also, I think, struck a tower, which is Iranian made. They can replace it swiftly. And then the Iranians fired uh, on American bases in Kuwait and in Bahrain. So this is basically where we are. The Iranians are hitting back hard, proportionately speaking. The Americans have had no success in getting any of these ships out of the Persian Gulf, and we are where we are. If the United States tries to do this again tonight or in the following nights, we're going to see the same sort of response, And if the Americans strike the Iranians, then the Iranians will strike back even harder. When the Americans hit an Iranian tanker unprovoked a few nights ago, the Iranians hit back very hard against Kuwait and uh, the uh, Bahraini regime and the U.S. bases, the U.S. base there. So the Americans back then also said that nothing happened, but satellite images clearly show that the opposite is true. So it's not as if the Americans they're in any commanding position, but Western media wants to present it to be the situation to be as if the United States is having some success, even the media that is hostile towards Trump and even the media that is attacking him for his failures in the war, that media, when it comes to psychological warfare, they're still uh, cooperating fully with the U.S. military and the state.
Yeah. Did I? I'm sure that you watched what General Mohsen Rezai said to CNN. He said the next phase of war, if the United States tries to escalate, they're gonna push the U.S. forces to the Indian Sea. And when it comes to the confrontation, what is the assessment on the part of Iranians? Do they see that the United States is seeking some sort of escalation, or they want to stay with this sort of conflict, just sort of bugging Iranian forces, bugging Iranian ports and islands, and putting pressure on the Iranian economy? What is the assessment on the part of Iranians?